Can cheap watercolour paper really compete with expensive watercolour paper? Today I'm putting Flying Tiger's 100% cotton paper against Baohong 100% cotton paper. I'm going to try and paint exactly the same flower on both, but will the expensive paper actually make a difference? Let's find out. This Baohong is completely brand new, you know, but I'm going to open it just for you. Let's get started. So I've got my colours ready and I'll leave the exact names in the description. But I've just picked up a small selection of Kuretake Gangsai Tambi. That way I know I can stick to the same colours. I'm using a size 12 silver black velvet brush to start with, and I ain't going to hold back. I'm going to use the water the way I do. If you've watched anything that I've done before, I like using a lot of water. I'm just using my normal flowy technique to create the base of the flower first, and then I do a second layer where there's another layer of petals and build it up and make it look like there's lots of petals, and then a third and final layer where I start to add in details and just a few little petals and some highlighted areas here and there. So that's the way I paint. That's my structure of painting. This flower's gone a little bit weird, but we're going to stick with it. We're going to go with it. You know what I'm like. If you've been here before, I like to continue and carry on, even if it doesn't quite go the way I like it to. But that's the thing about watercolour painting, is sometimes you just don't know what's going to happen, even if you do plan and prepare. But I'm really liking how this is going, so we'll carry on. I bought quite a lot of these Flying Tiger papers because it's pretty cheap, and I looked on their website and it still is. And I'm really interested just to see how this performs, because it is still 100% cotton paper. And in all honesty, I've used this paper before, so I do already know how it performs. But I really wanted to compare it with something that is more professional and high end. So I've just added some pinks in using a Winsor & Newton size 4. This is a Princeton Neptune brush size 8. So I'm just going to add in some of the centre and stem and a leaf. So the reason why I wanted to make this video is because one of my previous videos, where I tell you 3 ways of using expensive paper without feeling guilty, that was really popular with a lot of you. It had so many comments, and there was some interesting comments from quite a lot of you, and that's why I thought it would be good just to follow up and compare something much cheaper to something that is quite a bit expensive, but they both still say they are 100% cotton paper. One's just more expensive than the other. So I just want to see if I can actually see a difference. If you want to try this yourself, you don't have to use the same papers I'm using. You could just do the same experiment with any 2 brands that you already have. So we'll just see how they compare. It already feels like the way the water is being handled by the paper is different to the more expensive papers that I normally use. And I do remember when I was practicing that sometimes I just didn't like the way the painting was going. And I don't know if that was because of the paper or because of my skill level. I wasn't sure at the time. So I'm going to leave the first layer here and just let that dry, and then we'll carry on with a second layer. It is pretty hot in the UK as well, so it didn't take too long to dry. I am going to speed some bits up because it's not really a proper tutorial, it's more a comparison, and we'll see at the end how it compares. So I will just speed some bits up. I have got a really nice, gorgeous little, I've got to say it, hang on a minute, I've got a really nice, I set myself up for this, anemone, I still can't say it. I've got a really nice, gorgeous, pinky purple flower tutorial, so why don't you check that out if you want a nice, calming, helpful little tutorial which is beginner friendly. I'll leave the link in the description box. I think someone's whistling in the background. It is the summer holidays, so the kids are out and about, so it's actually quite nice to hear. So I added an extra leaf in, I've added in a little bit of shadow, and then I decided to add in a little bit of a background just to see how that looks with even more water. I'm using the smaller brush, so it's not a shed load of water, and I'm just moving the pigment around just to sort of give it a bit of a shadow, a bit of a background, a bit of grounding, and just to make it look a bit more arty. I waited again a few minutes and came back to it a bit later, and all I'm going to do is just add in a final layer with a few more details. The cheaper paper has actually handled the water really well, and I haven't had like major problems with it, but I have noticed quite a few watermarks. It just seems like the water has stayed on the surface of the paper a little longer rather than soak into the paper evenly. Not a massive issue, but it's just something I've noticed while painting. So I'm using more pigment now and a little bit less water to try and get some of those details in. It does look like there's quite a lot of petals on this as well. I haven't painted a specific flower, and I don't do realism. I just go for something that looks nice. I've said that before. I'm not a perfectionist at all. And then, of course, I have to add splatter. I love splatter so much. I promise this. I am going to make a video where I start with the splatter. Okay, so Baohong paper. This is obviously much bigger. This is a bigger sheet of paper, but that's absolutely fine. I'll still try and stick with the same technique, the same procedure that I followed, and instantly already it feels different. And I'm not trying to be biased or anything, but it does feel different. The brush with the paint going down onto the paper, it just feels like not so much hard work. And this is what I originally wanted. This is what I originally envisioned in my mind when I was trying to put this painting down onto the Flying Tiger paper, because you know when I said it's not quite gone the way I wanted it to go, this is the way I wanted it to go. The paint is going onto the paper much more smoothly. It doesn't feel like it's a battle or a challenge, and I didn't feel that when I was painting on the cheap paper. I'm just saying it feels better now that I've used this better quality paper. I don't know if I'm making any sense. Let me know in the comments what you think. Have you done this before? If you are someone that's used cheaper paper before and you've moved up, or you've changed your papers or upgraded is what I meant to say, what's your views and opinions on that? I'm trying to stick to the order that I did the painting in as well. So I started off with the beige. I added in some yellow. I'm adding in some pink now with the same brush. And I'm trying to use the same amount of water as well. It's quite tricky because, as I said, it is quite hot at the moment in the UK. I'm not complaining. It's absolutely beautiful. It is just a tad bit too hot because I'm in the UK and I'm not used to this heat. But it is gorgeous, and I think it's going to be a bit cooler over the next few coming days. I'm not complaining, but I am trying to stick with exactly the same process, and I just feel like the quality of the paper is completely different. I forgot to say as well, both of these papers are 300 GSM and they are blocks. So it's not the free sheets of paper, they're on a block pad. So it means they've both already been stretched. So that's something that is similar as well. Similar, but the same, but different. A few of you have also said on social media and on here as well that you would like some more leaf tutorials and some more beginner friendly flower tutorials as well. So that is something I will aim to do for you as well. And someone mentioned as well about bookmarks. So again, these are all ideas that I've got. They're all things that I'm interested in doing. It's just time wise. It's more the editing that takes a little while, but I will get them done for you. The other thing I do want to mention is, if you do want to stick around till the end, there's one important thing that I didn't manage to get into the bulk part of the video, which is quite an interesting point to make. It works perfectly on the expensive paper and it doesn't work, or it doesn't always work on the cheaper paper, and that's probably a good point for you to see. So stick around to the end for me to show you that. So this is the second layer, and as you can see, a little bit of that green did hit a bit of the water and has blended and bloomed a little bit into the centre of the flower. That's absolutely fine. We can go with that. It's exactly what I wanted. It wasn't what I wanted at all, but this is what I'm trying to explain. These things happen. It's fine. Also, the water seems to be handled better on this paper, and I'm finding that the colours seem to blend much more smoothly. So when I did the wet on wet, it just feels like it flowed so much better. It just feels like I have a little bit more control over the paint and water compared to the other one. Like I said at the beginning, the flower didn't go the way I wanted it to go. I feel like this is going the way I want it to go. I've put a bit too much green in the background there as well compared to what I did with the other one. So I'm just trying to soften that out a bit more and just make that a bit more blended in. And I feel like that's exactly what I mean. It feels like it's blended in so much nicer. And I'll add in the final details again, exactly the same way. And we'll see how they both compare at the end. And let me just tell you, you know where the green has bloomed there? It just now looks like it's just a bit of a shadowy area at the bottom of the petal. That's why I'm not too worried about when things like that do happen. There's a way of sorting them out or making them become part of your picture. So don't panic if something like that happens. Make it part of your picture. I just want to take a moment to thank everyone if you've ever shared or liked and subscribed and just supported me in any way, either on YouTube, TikTok or Instagram, just social media in general. I do really appreciate all the comments and any feedback you give me as well. Here's the splatter. We're getting closer to the final. Let's see what the results are. Okay, I've cleared the paints away a little bit. Let's have a look. I quite like how the one on the cheaper paper has turned out. I am a little bit surprised. It just looks like there's loads of layers. Looking at them side by side, which one do you actually prefer? In fact, I'm just going to take off the papers because they're on the block pads. So in case you haven't done this before, this is the other thing that you have to do. And you have to be extra careful with the cheaper paper because I've done it so many times, I've ripped it. I've only done it once or twice with the expensive paper, but nowhere near as much. And I use one of these leaf blades. I'll have a look to see if I can get you a link. But this is just a leaf blade that you can get to take the blocks of paper off. So this looks like there's lots of layers, but I can see lots of watermarks. I don't know if you can see that clearly. The Baohong one looks like it's blended nicely and a bit better, not so many watermarks. I like the cheaper one as well. I think they both do look nice. The Baohong background looks a bit brighter as well. I actually think for practicing, you could still use the cheaper paper as long as it says 100% cotton paper and it's 300 GSM. So one of the final things I wanted to show you is the washi tape, because I wanted to actually put washi tape on to start off with. So when you put some tape on and then take it off of the cheaper paper, she says, it lifts up a bit of the paper. And this is the sheet I was going to use, and that's where I had my masking tape. And if we do that here, it just doesn't come off. So again, that's another benefit of the quality of the thicker paper. And I just thought that was important to mention to you in case you didn't know.